Is 2:03 and this meeting is called to order. We were waiting for a quorum to be here so we can conduct business. First thing is a roll call, and Katie Blank attended her resignation as library trustee last night, effective immediately. So the chair declares vacancy on the board of trustees. If trustee Blank spent 10 hours a month, which is what the trustee manual says is average, that was 4,800. Trustee Blank spent 4,800 hours over 4 decades volunteering with the library. And I'm not sure how long she was chair, but that takes extra time. So I'm sure it was considerably more than 4,800 hours. Anyway, so we just want to thank her for her service to the library, and I brought the flowers over here to get her spot, but I forgot how small it is, and so we couldn't really make a spot for someone who was not here. Anyway, so next we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and there's the flag over there. Are you ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so next we will have public comment. Excuse me, speakers, state your name and community and speak for no more than 3 minutes. Persons addressing the board are expected to observe level of civility and decorum appropriate for a public meeting. No personal attacks or disruptions from audience members tolerated. So we have Lisa Burkett, and we're just over there. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa, and I live in Posey Falls. I would like to extend my congratulations to the majority of the board for effectively orchestrating the resignation of the Library Network's director. Makes me wonder who the next target will be. Will it be the remaining minority of trustees? Well, we already know Katie quit. As for the position left by Alexa, will it be filled by an unqualified rubber stamper, or will it be given to a qualified individual whose expertise will not be valued, just like our last director? I would also like to thank the majority of the board for making it in an editorial of the CDA Press on June 16th. Let me quote from the editorial, quote, Alexa's tenure as head of the regional group of 7 libraries in Bookmobile has been a 13-month hard labor prison sentence. Under the micro mismanagement of the Board of Trustees majority, Michelle Otteson, Tim Ploss, Tom Hanley, Eccles has been bullied, ignored, set on meaningless tasks, set on counterproductive tasks, and consistently prohibited from doing what she was hired to do, unquote. Mr. Hanley, you persist in asserting that your elected role was to eliminate pornography material from the library. However, you consistently prevented Alexa from carrying out her duties. Quote, among CLN trustees, most egregious mistakes is refusing to heed Eccles' warnings about insurance coverage. The issue presents an existential threat. Locally and statewide, the assault on public institutions, schools, hospitals, libraries is being waged with sometimes devastating effect. Nowhere has this been more evident than the accreditation threatening board majority at NIC, but the CLN trio is giving them a run for the money. Without a majority of trustees who understand and adhere to their responsibilities, the CLN's future is bleak, unquote. I want to bring to your attention, Mr. Ploss and Mr. Hanley, it'd be nice if someone paid attention, that in the recent election, only 14,000 registered voters cast their votes for you out of an approximate total of 90,000 eligible voters. Furthermore, if we assume that all 14,000 of these voters were Republicans, your support only represents 20% of the registered Republican vote in Kootenai County. This indicates that your election may not be considered a clear mandate from the community. Remember, you work for all of us.
All right, thank you. And that concludes our public comments. Pass it on to Lindsay, please. Right, and before we get started, I did want to thank the assistant director and the business manager for the excellent putting together the packets with everything double-sided except for the different documents were separated and they're color coded, and that's much appreciated. It makes it so much easier. All right, so next we have the consent agenda, which is minutes of the regular meeting, May 16th, minutes of several special meetings, CIN meeting minutes, and the CIN financial statements. Have questions or comments, corrections on those? Also wanted to thank you guys for meeting minutes. They're much easier to read now. I did not have any corrections. Kathy, Henry?
No, well, I'm assuming this is including the CIN financial statement. This group under that?
Yes.
Okay, I did have one or two questions. I was just curious, on the CIN, unaudited revenues coming in there. Was there a large donation? It appears there would be. We were expecting, I think, to get a $10,000 contribution for ebooks. And I think this was on last month's statement as well. I think I missed an opportunity to ask the question. And we've gotten $70,000 so far this year. And the same thing for the next line down. That was line items number 18 and 19, by the way. And the next line item, we were expecting $3,000 for income for ebook donations, and we got 11,000. So I was just curious, anyone knows where that came from? It's a considerable difference from what was expected and budgeted for.
Yes, I'm finished.
CIN only ever budgets for the contracted obligation for overdrive, which is 10,000 in content and then 10,000 in the membership. Coeur d'Alene and the district are the two entities contractually obligated to the overdrive contract. And anytime they make additions to overdrive, it goes under contributions. Anyone else that wishes to donate is a donation. We only have one library in CIN that regularly puts into their budget a $3,000 donation. So everything else is if people have it in their budget to give.
Thank you. Still being.
Well, actually, Trustee Bloss, did you have any questions or comments?
I don't have anything. This is everything up to the CLN, not including CLN.
The CIN financial statements, and then there's a CIN
Right.
minutes in there, but the rest of it is CLN.
I mean, are we talking about the CLN
No.
budget?
Oh, no,
It's the board
No,
minutes, board minutes and the CIN.
yeah, we're item number 5 on the agenda, so item number 6 is CLN, and we're not there yet.
No. I don't have any.
Okay, so I was reading about Robert's rules, this empty thing that you can do to make things go a little bit faster. I say there's no further discussion or objection, consent agenda is accepted.
Objection.
Okay, well then, the consent agenda is accepted. All right, so on to item number 6, Community Library Network, May 2024 financial statement. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Or, well, I guess there wouldn't be corrections to that. Assistant Director?
I emailed the board about this, but we inadvertently left out page 2 of the unaudited income statement. And so in your table packet, you have page 2, and then it was also emailed to you.
Assistant Director.
Just to point out, we are 66% of the way through the budget year and are in the entirety, we're 55% of the budget that is spent. So we are a little under budget for this time of year.
Mr. Plus.
I was just going to ask, I know the property taxes haven't come in, but when will it be? The end of July, the next month, we'll see, the second half property taxes. Do you think?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I believe it is scheduled for July 24th or 25th to come in, so you won't see it till your August meeting when I present the July numbers.
But
Trustee Plus.
won't next month's be through June 30th? Oh, July 20, okay,
July.
gotcha, okay.
Assistant Director.
I just wanted to point out that on line 70A, it does not include the invoices, the May invoice from legal counsel. So you'll likely see that in possibly 2 invoices paid in next month's expenditures.
Trustee Henley.
It's one, small question. The audit, apparently has cost us a little more in the financial audit line 61. I'm assuming than we budgeted for. So will we use this number now for the budget for 2025 as a, so we're closer to our budget next year.
Business Manager.
So the billing to CIN for their portion of the audit did not occur in May because I was waiting for the final invoice from the auditor. And so next month you will see that there's a negative amount because we have billed CIN for their portion. So that'll change. If you guys decide to engage Alpine Summit to do the next audit, I can reach out to them and let them know, and then they present what that's going to cost, and you can get that ahead of time for the budget.
Thank you.
Trustee Plus.
So 69 insurance, I just wanted to make sure we paid the second half of the bill to ICRIM. So there's no other due for insurance. Okay.
If there's no further discussion or objection, the CLN May 2024 financial statements are accepted.
Yes.
Hearing none, just so. All right, so next we have discussion on Community Library Network May 2024 carry forward balance analysis. That's item number 7 on the agenda. Welcome in.
Actually, you know what? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'll use the restroom real quick.
Oh, okay. All right, do you have any questions or comments? Us?
I was going to ask on restricted funds. Basically, is that closed off to us at this point? If we were going to move any more money into that for projects, were we going to have a chance to come back for the budget the middle of the year and move more money, or is this kind of have to wait till next year?
Business manager?
Are you referring to the grants and donations restricted funds?
No,
Which,
the carry, let's see, the capital projects. Carry, or the craft,
are,
CARF, you know.
Can you give us the dollar amount that you're talking about? Make sure we're on the right line.
Well, the only thing I see carry forward is for Harrison, 56,000. But I normally see what did you call it? CARF. I guess I don't see that called out specifically.
for FY 24, the board did not budget capital projects or any money to go into CARB. So it's, we're not setting aside any because you didn't budget it. So
But wasn't there some left in there other than Harrison's for capital projects? I thought there was other from previous year that was still set aside.
oh, we already did the Hayden Road. That's done.
Yeah.
So it's not in here anymore.
And so there's nothing else.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether there's another, is it different than the one in the packet?
That because it has both sides on it.
Oh, yeah, okay, great.
Do you recall if you had any questions or comments about the carry forward analysis?
No,
Okay, yeah, that's okay.
But I guess
Trustee Glass?
my actual question was, were we going to be given an opportunity to adjust the budget mid-year to add more money or make changes, or is that time already passed? Or I thought there was going to be a chance mid-year to adjust the budget a little bit for capital funds or something. But maybe if you can just tell me what's normal.
You generally open up a budget to accept additional funds. We have not done that. But if you have room within your expenditure lines to move funds around within those, you don't have to reopen the budget for that.
There are no further comments or questions. We will move on to the next item, which is number 8, circulation statistics, May 2024. To me, it just looked like the statistics that might be concerning, again, probably were all explained by Apple and Post Falls being closed. Assistant Director?
Yes, I was just going to say that our total circulation is down, and that's pretty much because of the overall closures of Post Falls and Alpha that we had earlier, and then just the smaller mini libraries at both locations that are causing the reduced circulation. Our ebook and e-audio circulation is up compared to last year, so people are using our e-resources. So yeah, it's a little bit mixed, but overall, I think we're doing okay.
Spots?
So on circulation under Post Falls, circulation last year, circulation year to date, why was last year showing so low for Post Falls? You know, what, 1209 or 12,095? What does that number represent? Circulation last year? Top line.
Assistant Director?
That number is actually our circulation for this year. So that first number is the total circulation for the month for each of those libraries. And then last year, you can see that it's at 33,000, and this year it's only at 12,000 for that particular library. And then at Athol, last year it was approximately 5,000, and this year it's 2,000 for this month, for May.
Okay, any further comments or questions? Alright. Hearing none, we will move on to the director's report. I want to thank the assistant director for stepping up for that.
I did not actually do a written report. I just have some things that I want to highlight that were in your package, if that's okay. You all did receive a printed copy of the collection report because the policies that we're currently working on have not yet been approved, in which it says that report will be electronic. So that's why you have a printed copy, and that's for everything that was purchased in May, sorted by audience. And then let's see, the next thing I wanted to go over was just a facilities update. So at Post Falls, the construction crew has torn out all of the drywall. So that part is done. The next step is that they're gonna start insulation and drywall installation. And then the insulation is going to be brought up to current code because the building is many years old, and so the insulation was at code during that time, and now it's going to be brought up to code now. We've also been working with the architect to select finishings and carpet and paint. And we are working with the city inspectors to ensure everything is up to code. And for Post Falls, the estimated completion is November, December, but it could be done earlier. We don't know. At Athol, it's kind of the same situation. It's moving a little bit faster because it's smaller, but the drywall tear out is done. The insulation has been installed, and then drywall will be installed this week. And again, we're working on carpet and paint selections. We're working with the city inspectors, and they're estimating September, October for Athol to reopen. And let's see. Once the board approves our 2 new material selection and withdrawal policies and forms, we'll be able to roll out procedures for staff. And I'm working on creating talking points and procedures for staff behind the scenes to ensure that everyone is ready to engage with customers regarding these changes. We want our staff to feel confident and comfortable talking about this. And then the last thing is I just want to point out the library reports that are submitted by each manager. And for the May programs, there are highlights in there about focusing on health literacy. Each month this year, we've focused on a specific form of literacy. May, it was health. And so that allowed us to have some intergenerational programs with parents and kids and grandparents learning about the same topic. And then also you can see in our collection development report, the top adult fiction items that circulated for each library. So it's kind of fun to see what each community chooses to read.
Trustee Henley?
Just want to say thank you for the main acquisitions report. That was helpful. Appreciate that. And regarding the facility updates, I'll be honest, I haven't looked at the website. Are we keeping the public appraised more or less of the status or the timelines on that? Because it's good that we know, but I just want to make sure the public is aware of the timeline. Is that published on our website or elsewhere, or at least update it as necessary?
Assistant Director?
The specific dates have not been published. It feels like there was a bit of a slowdown, recently, and so now that we're moving at a little more quick pace, we can work on drafting sort of like an update page for the website that gives some details. And then staff, like I plan to go over these dates with staff at our managers meeting on Friday, and they can begin sharing that with staff, who will then share it with customers.
Nice, thank you.
Patrick's boss.
Yeah, you mentioned that, insulation was being upgraded in Post Falls, so I was under the impression they were just cutting the sheetrock at lower level where the water damage was, but are they pulling it all off and replacing insulation to the ceiling, or are they just replacing insulation in that lower part?
They are focused primarily on the lower flood cutting where they checked to see if there was water damage. There are a few areas in the ceiling where in the children's room and one of the study rooms, that's where the water initially came in. And so they've cut that back, and that's where they're making sure insulation is up to code, but only in a specific area, not the entire building. But that would be out of scope.
Yeah, so
Mr. Boss.
it's only in the areas the sheetrocks
Yeah.
have been cut. They're not, okay, going further. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I was just gonna go back, when I was asking about the public being informed, I'm not asking you to commit to a certain date at all, just a roundabout guesstimate based upon current progress, that's all, otherwise, you'll have to backtrack if it falls behind schedule, that's all.
Robinson, do you have any questions?
No, no, thank you.
You want to leave you out?
No, thanks a lot.
All right, and Assistant Director, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Right, if there are no more questions, we will move on to the next portion, which is election of officers. And this is, well, the officers are split up into two groups. The first one is just the chair and vice chair, according to Idaho Code 332719. And this will be effective immediately after voting. Do we have nominations, slate, or, okay, Trustee Boss?
I move that, positions of chair and vice chair, I nominate, Rochelle Otteson for chair and Tom Hanley for vice chair. And that we move on to elections. Or I should do that.
That positions of
Chair and vice chair.
chair and vice chair. What was it, be occupied, or what was the wording used?
Nominated as Rochelle Otteson for chair and Tom Hanley for vice chair.
Okay, it has been moved that the positions of chair and vice chair be nominated, Rochelle Otteson for chair and Tom Hanley for vice chair. Do we have discussion on that? Are you willing?
I was gonna say, hopefully I'm asked, I don't mind retaining vice chair at this time, no, I'm happy with that.
Are you happy staying as chair?
Not happy, but
Willing?
I can get through another year. Okay, no further. Okay, has been moved that the positions of chair and vice chair are nominated Rochelle Otteson for chair and Tom Hanley for vice chair. So we will be voting on that now. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all right, it is unanimous. So Rochelle Otteson is chair for the next year and Tom Hanley is vice chair. We're just switching right along. All right, so the next agenda item, number 11, appointment of treasurer and clerk. According to Idaho Code 332722, these are appointed and don't have to be a trustee. Um, According to our bylaws, the clerk does need to be. So anyways, we thank Teresa for her service this past year as our treasurer. And this appointment will also be effective immediately for voting. So I nominate and move to accept Tim Ploss as clerk and Yasmin Harris as treasurer. Yes, Trustee Robinson?
I see that we have this correspondence from Yasmin. Is she here? I thought you looked familiar. I didn't know that was your name. I should know that that was your name, that that's your name. So is there, can we have her speak, or did you already speak and I missed it?
I didn't speak.
Okay,
Oh.
and if anybody spoke earlier, I really apologize for not being here. Family in town, and I forget how long it actually takes for me to get here with the curves and the
Yeah.
cliffs.
Yep.
But,
Just Teresa, is the only person who spoke.
oh, okay, thank you. So are we having Yasmin say anything, or are we just going on, the black and white here, or?
Yes, Ms. Harris, if you would like to, you're welcome to say, what you would like to contribute or.
Would you like me to step up?
Yeah.
Yasmin Harris. I have been wanting to volunteer more and more in our community. Been a part of Coogee County for just over 5 years. And I know that there is a need for the library network, and my background is in finance and bookkeeping, and I am currently serving at Hayden Meadows PTO as their treasurer, as well as a nonprofit organization called Bold for Blue. We partner with Coogee County law enforcement with just acts of kindness and service. And I am their current treasurer as well. I'm a mom to 2 boys, and I have the time available, so love to be considered for this position.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Hannah?
That we're aware of, is there anyone else competing, say, for the treasurer position?
Assistant manager?
I have not received any other requests or emails.
Okay. Trustee Robinson?
And I'd like to see your qualifications sound amazing. If you get this, it's not just because you're the only one going out for it.
Thank you for that.
Great. Trustee Hannah?
The reason I was asking, I want to make sure we were giving consideration.
Absolutely.
If someone else said they desperately wanted this position or job as a treasurer and we were neglecting them or, ignoring them. So, thank you. And that doesn't reduce your qualifications in my mind at all.
Yeah, and I didn't mean
Right, Trustee Fox?
I'm glad to have you applying, Jasmine. I wondered, what was your training for bookkeeping? I assume you've had courses and, do you have a degree? Do you?
Yeah, so my education is business management, but I very quickly fell into the finance world. So I worked with publicly traded companies. I worked for a pretty large corporation and managed property and dealt with large budgets for about 14 years. And I was the bookkeeper and then the director of ministry for my church. And now I work with different smaller organizations, and I help them with their book and or I volunteer where I can.
Trustee Hannah?
Just one more comment from me, not particularly about Yasmin. Again, going by the statute, I looked it up and to see what exactly were the detail or the duties of a treasurer. And it says to supervise all monies raised for the library district by taxation or received by the district from other sources, and shall supervise all disbursements of funds of the district by order of the Board of Trustees. So I'm assuming that that's in your wheelhouse and you can handle that. So Just wanted to clarify. I was curious. I had to look up the statute myself.
All the questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, it has been moved to accept Tim Foss as clerk and Yasmin Harris as treasurer. All those in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Okay, it is unanimous. So Tim Foss is our clerk for another year and Yasmin Harris is our treasurer. So it doesn't look like there's any room for you up here at this particular time, though, so.
thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. All right, so moving on to item number 12, resolution CLN 6/17/2024-1, change of bank signature cards. Would staff like to say something about that?
I just plugged in the name, so we're ready to go.
Okay. All right, so yeah, this happens when we change the chair and or the treasurer. So if there is no discussion, there is no objection, CLN will change the bank signature cards to reflect the chair and the new treasurer. Hearing none, all right, so that is official and we can sign that probably during the break. Okay. All right, and then moving on to item number 13 of the agenda, fiscal year 25 budget planning. So I briefly spoke with the assistant manager about this because the board had specifically requested a budget to be presented to the board that is balanced to the best of the professional skills and ability of staff. Looking through the budget, it didn't seem that it was sustainable because the budget that we were handed earlier this month, was taking money out of carry forward as a solution for spending more money than we're taking in. So I was hoping that staff would use their creative and innovative skills and come up with a better foreseeable short-term and long-term solution. The director.
I would just like to say that staff are in agreement with that the budget that was presented was not sustainable. That we would like to, work as close as possible to being balanced without these savings. And, what I would like is to have the opportunity to present the board with the 3 scenarios, a 0 increase, 1% increase, and 2% increase. And then let the board decide from there how to move forward. We need to remember that we can always publish at a higher amount and then decide to take a lower amount with the final budget. But if we did the reverse, like if we published 0% and decided to take a 1%, that is much harder to meet all of those publishing deadlines. So that's sort of what is in my plan to move forward for the June budget planning meeting.
Trustee Henley?
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see what it would look like with 0, 1, and 2% for no increase or a small increase. Because I'm a realist, and if there are not reasonable places to reduce costs, things cost more. There's inflation going on, and so we're not immune from that. So I would like to see that. So that's an option for us to consider.
Trustee Claus?
Yeah, I'm still not comfortable with this extra amount that we have. I don't know whether insurance and until some of this gets settled, I don't know that it will before the next budget meeting, but I want to dig in and try to figure out how myself if no one else offers it, but how did we get the extra money in there? Where were we wrong in the budget? And if you have any more insight into that, I'd appreciate hearing it, but if the taxpayers paid us more than, or anyway, if the taxpayers have given us more money than we need, then we need to give it back to them somehow. But Anyway, that's my thinking. I'd just like to know where it came from and I mean, if it really is sustainable, I'd like to figure that out too.
Assistant Director?
I'm wondering if trustee Plath would be willing to sit down one-on-one and discuss it versus trying to do it in this, setting and see if we can possibly have greater understanding. I don't know if you're open to that or not.
Trustee County?
In general, is it because of money that was budgeted for and we just came in under budget over a number of years and just accrues and slowly gets smaller? Is that primarily where it's sourced from? And there's much more detail you don't have to tell me.
I mean, that is my understanding. I don't know if our business manager wants to address it more. It's just savings over the years.
Assistant Manager?
During COVID, we had some substantial savings due to the shutdown. And that was a big add that year. But we have tried to address that in utilizing carry forward for other projects. But as Trustee Hanley pointed out, it is an accumulation of not expending everything in a given year.
Okay, Trustee Robinson?
And also in situations like this, I think the words were if the taxpayers paid too much. And I don't think that would necessarily be the case. I think it has to do with what the business manager said and what another trustee said, but also with extra chunks coming in and from different last year, a couple of different chunks came in. I think one we turned away, one we took, for instance. But we also decimated some of the budget lines. So we weren't paying as much or spending as much on acquisitions and a couple other line items. So when you get a little extra that you didn't know you were going to get, and you've cut the outgoing money, then you're going to have a surplus. And it's, I would say, the ebb and flow of the organization. Is that somewhat correct as well? I don't need an answer, but
No, I mean, if, there's our benefits less or more than we planned, is snow removal less or more than we planned. It's like all these little things that add up that allow for the accumulation.
Trustee Fox?
I understand what the trustee's saying, but we did budget for that and we did cut it a lot closer for this year's budget. I'm just surprised that we were, I mean, if it was 20,000 more or 40,000 more maybe, but I'm just surprised that it's that much different unless the month to month is consistently 50,000 lower than what we budgeted. If it's that, then it would add up. So that's what I want to look into. So.
Okay, Trustee Henley?
Just one more comment. I like having a little extra money. I don't mean excessive amount, but if the CPA auditor says 2 months is a good cushion, doesn't mean we can't have 3 months. I don't want 6 or 10 months worth, but I like having spare money in the bank for emergencies. So I'm not in favor of bringing it down exactly to 2 month balance. So I know it's not part of the big discussion here, but I like having emergency money available as long as it's not excessive.
Agreed. Right. Anyone else? All right, then our next agenda item is break, but we're whipping along so quickly, it might be a little bit early. You want to take a break? Okay. All right, we will be on break for the next 15 minutes. And our first item is agenda item number 15, a discussion of material selection and acquisition policy, which we sent to our attorney for legal review. So it seems like it would be beneficial to first hear from our attorney.
The 6/11/24 material selection and acquisition policy draft, is that the one, just to be
Yes.
100%? Okay. So I did review this policy. there were two things in here, three, one was minor. I'll go from the back to the front. So on page 3, under selection process, on the second paragraph, it states books and material with content that is. Books is already included in the material definition. So it's kind of redundant to say books and material. So my recommendation would be to take books and out and just have capital M material. Page 2 at the top, it's a partial paragraph. Under the director's guidance, selection is delegated to professional collection development library staff who are qualified by education, training, and experience. Can you repeat where you are? Right here under very top of page 2, the first full sentence or second full sentence under the director's guidance. My recommendation is to change the is to a may after selection. I think this delves too far into operational issues and would require the director to delegate. And the director may want to choose to whom they delegate and when they delegate. And so I would change is to may. Otherwise, the director is required to delegate to a professional collection development staff member who has education, training, and experience.
Change the word delegate, ED.
Yeah, so it'd be may delegate rather than may delegated.
And then on page 1, this is the second paragraph. And it's the second and third sentences in the paragraph. It reads, no graphic, visual, or written depictions of sexual conduct as defined in this policy will be included in the CLN non-adult collection. Age-appropriate materials concerning biology, human anatomy, or religion are exempt from this directive. There's a fairly new case out that has a similar issue in it. It's GLBT Youth and Iowa Schools Task Force versus Reynolds, 2023 Westlaw 9052113. There's two underlying cases, 423 CV 474 and 478. They were consolidated. This opinion was out in 2023, and it's essentially a challenge to a state law that turns around the phrases age appropriate and sex act. And it's one of the closest cases I can find on point. It's not a acquisition public library case, but it's informative about how the court would handle it. And that court found that a preliminary injunction should issue because of several constitutional issues with similar language to graphic, visual, or written depiction of sexual conduct, that it was void for vagueness, so it would violate the due process clause, and that it didn't stand up to the appropriate level of scrutiny under the First Amendment. So I think this phrase should be tethered to the concept of obscenity like, which comes out of the Miller test and the Ginsburg test and their progeny. And so the idea that a graphic, visual, or written depiction of sexual conduct is so incredibly broad that it would be hard for, like if multiple libraries were doing it, they'd have a different number of books that they would remove. And it would remove classics or the Bible. And like this case, it would remove even the code itself. And so while I understand how sexual conduct is defined in the policy, on its face, when you look at the definition of the word graphic, it just means like a greater level of detail. And so what the library is saying is any physical contact with a person's clothed genitals that's described in a great level of detail could not be purchased. And that envelops conduct that does not meet the level of obscenity or even come close to that. Imagine a basketball player boxing out another basketball player. Technically, under that term, that would qualify as physical contact with a person's closed genitalia, and it could have been described in graphic detail. So a Michael Jackson basketball book could be excluded. So my idea would be to tie this into some type of prurient interest an appeal to a sexual desire. And then the secondary concern of that is how we're picking and choosing the redeeming factors. So we're saying no redeeming factors apply for selection unless it's biology, anatomy, or religion. And then those redeeming factors are okay. And so I would probably soften that a touch. And then I would tie the graphic, visual, or written depiction of sexual conduct to some sort of, I don't want to say inappropriate, but you know what I mean, some sort of inappropriate sexual prurient interest appeal to that. And so I would propose that we attach a sentence that says something similar, like, to the maximum extent permitted by the obscenity light test or the obscenity light jurisprudence. And that's all my comments for this policy. Thank you, Chair.
Trustee Claus?
So I just, on the last, point, that case you're citing that, gives you, or that drew you to those conclusions, that was for removal of books, right?
In a public school, correct.
Removal of books, and this is for purchase.
Well, technically it was a state law that defines the phrase age appropriate and sex act. So it was a constitutional challenge to a state statute that would affect removal.
So should we start with the easy ones and just knock those out real quick? So on page,
Maybe before I'll type in, what, can you say again, what you recommended? Because you said a lot of things in there.
to the maximum extent permitted, and I didn't catch the rest of it.
Yeah, so we had an iteration of this earlier when the Director Eccles wrote in the policy that, I can't remember exactly, but it was no nudity will be included in the 12 and under section.
Mhm.
And that was a robust prohibition on selection, but it would arguably pass constitutional limitations because it was targeted to content that was tied to the appropriateness to an age level developmentally related to that conduct. This is not, and it's very broad related to nudity in general, and it's related to a 17-year-old as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what is it you want to, we don't want to, or I do not want to go back and add age points in here. I just wanted something for everyone under 18.
I think it would soften the language so that way it doesn't conflict with the rest of the definitions if we tie in the obscenity light test to this sentence. So that way the director could take a look at a book that has a graphic, visual, or written depiction of sexual conduct, and then they could say, does this appeal to the prurient interest for that age group? And they can conduct that analysis. But if we don't allow them to engage in the obscenity light analysis, then it would be, I think, overbroad and not survive constitutional scrutiny.
So what is your recommendation? I'll type it in on the version. I don't have a screen, but I at least wanted to get it in here.
It may be something like to the maximum extent allowed by the obscenity light test.
After non-adult collection.
I would put it at the very beginning, right before no graphic, visual.
Maximum
Trustee Hannes?
obscenity light, L-I-G-H-T, L-I-T-E, like L-I-K-E.
L-I-G-H-T. The courts frequently refer to the Ginsburg and Miller cases in the context of minors by referring to it as the obscenity light. So they're essentially taking Ginsburg and Miller and saying, but it could be a little bit more prohibitive depending on the age. Because the states have more police power and parents' patriae power to regulate the conduct that minors can access.
Okay, so if that's like a specific thing, would obscenity and light be capitalized?
No, just obscenity dash light.
Okay,
Can you read it again? To the
to the
maximum.
maximum extent allowed.
By the obscenity light. I didn't know what my.
Or you just do, everyone say one word this week.
So
All right, so I guess we're not starting with the easy ones.
I just wanted to get it down, the proposal.
Yeah.
So the sentence would start with, to the maximum extent allowed by the obscenity light, comma, no graphic
Obscenity light test.
Like test.
test, okay. And that's it.
No, and then before age appropriate, I would say, for example, comma, and then small letter A. So that way, biology, anatomy, and religion are not the only exclusive redeeming factors.
Okay, so that paragraph would then read, protecting minors from explicit and potentially developmentally damaging sexual content is a serious consideration for the entire community, library board, and staff. To the maximum extent allowed by the obscenity light test, comma, no, so it would be a small n for now. No graphic, visual, or written depictions of sexual content as defined in this policy will be included in the CLN non-adult collection. For example, comma, and age appropriate material, whoops, I think I messed something up there.
I think you were tracking. For example, comma, age appropriate.
Oh, okay, right, so that there was the end of a sentence there, okay. For example, an age appropriate, oh, actually there wouldn't be an A or an N in there, it would just be, for example, comma, age appropriate materials concerning biology,
Yeah.
human anatomy, or religion are exempt from this directive. Okay, I'm good with that. Okay, so trustee class, you good?
You were, were you going by his?
I just wanted to get it in here
Okay.
instead of
All right.
there. So what I've got written there in orange is after the staff period is to capital T, or to the maximum extent allowed by the obscenity light test, comma, lowercase n for no graphic. And then the last sentence starts with, for example, comma, age appropriate. Do we really need to say, for example, or what?
I think we do, because like my basketball example earlier, that doesn't fall within the policy you're giving the director for a redeeming factor. And so maybe there is a graphic description of sexual conduct, but it's not biology, anatomy, or religion. So we're saying it may have a redeeming factor, but the director can select that book based upon that redeeming factor.
Trustee Robinson?
So to be clear, I believe you use the term boxing,
Box out,
box out. That's this thing.
where you go like this.
Oh, well, what's sexual about that?
Because
Because I want to know if a book had that in it, he said it wouldn't be selected. Right?
if you took a very hyper technical reading of the policy, which is what the court will do, because they'll look at what it says on its face, and the way sexual conduct is defined is in a way that includes an act of physical contact with a person's clothes, genitals, pubic area, buttocks. And so when you box out, the back of one person typically presses up against the front or the back of the other person.
There's two people boxing.
Right.
I got you, boxing out.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay, sorry.
Okay, trustee Bloss?
I'm still bothered by the for example, because that leads me to think that anyone trying to use this policy can add other things to it. I don't really like that. I think we should be specific. It's, for biology, anatomy. I think that anatomy and biology would include sex education, religion. Anyway, why do we want to say, for example? It seems like you just opened Pandora's box to a lot of things.
Well, the way yeah, go ahead.
Assistant Director?
The way I understand this is on the back end when staff are working with our staff procedures. As the attorney said earlier, like what we would be asking ourselves is, does this pertain to the prurient interest of whoever is supposed to be reading this book, whether it's for a 5-year-old or 10-year-old? And so we can look at that and see a lot of different examples, not just biology, anatomy, or religion. Whereas if you put us in a box of those 3 things, that's all we can look at. So in fact, it's giving us more power to do a better job, if you say, for example. Because otherwise, there's just 3 things that we're going to be looking.
Trustee Hanley?
So if I'm interpreting council correctly, it would be too limiting if we leave it the way we had it. This is a little softer and less likely to be legally challenged, if I'm getting that correctly.
That is my opinion, that if these 2 sentences are left as they are, we would be subject to a legal challenge and likely not prevail, because the redeeming factors will be a part of the analysis, I believe, regardless of if it's acquisition or removal, public schools or public libraries. And the court has a long history of literary, scientific, medical, artistic, or political redeeming factors that they have never abandoned in any context in acquisition or removal that will be considered. And then if you look at this GLBT youth case, one of the reasons the court had an issue with that state law was the breadth of it. And so one thing we have going for us here is we're just one library targeting certain types of materials versus a whole state statute targeting a broad range of materials. But they had an issue with the concept of age appropriateness and a broad definition of sexual conduct that doesn't include material that appeals to prurient interest. And so when you're talking about biology is such a broad term that could appeal to the prurient interest or not. And so it doesn't actually help exempt something, because it's exempting things that should be in the library and things that shouldn't be in the library. And so even though it may be facially content neutral as far as biology goes, it's not targeted enough to the content to meet the test. So you're way outside of the obscenity light test, exempting graphic and visual written depictions of sexual conduct as long as they concern biology. And all graphic or written depictions of sexual conduct will concern biology, because that's baked into the definition of sexual conduct. Does that make sense?
Yeah. All right, so it sounds like we had staffs on board and we had a majority of the trustees on board with that change. So that change is made. So on page 2, that top paragraph, second line, under the director's guidance, selection may, wait. Maybe delegated, yeah. May, okay, yep, okay, so it would read, under the director's guidance, selection may be delegated to professional collection development, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so staff is good with that, trustees? I'm a yes. Yes, okay, so, okay, so it is unanimous, we make that change. Strike out the is and add maybe, so it reads selection may be delegated. Okay, then on page 3, under selection process, the second paragraph, attorney suggested that remove books and, because it was redundant, just to make a better policy, capitalize M, so it just says material with content that is. Staff's good with that?
I can't find it.
Okay, it's
Got it.
second paragraph under selection process.
Yeah.
So it would just start with material with content. Okay, I'm good with that. Robinson's good with that. Hanley's good with that. Boss is good with that. Okay, so it is unanimous. So we changed that to capital M for material with content. And that was all three changes. So I would then entertain a motion to accept the materials selection and acquisition policy as amended. Oh, you have a question?
So is it,
Well, I mean, we could still do,
are we,
trustee Hammond,
are we approving it, accepting it? Where are we at this stage?
approving. So yeah,
It's been
approving
looked
would be a
at, so
better,
we're saying approving
yes,
this policy as
Yep.
written with those minor changes.
yes. So approving is the better word there.
Okay,
Thank
I have no other questions. I'll be fine with it.
you. Okay. Okay, Then- yes, go ahead.
I move that we approve the materials selection and acquisition policy draft is distributed on June 11th, 2024. With the changes noted at this meeting. I don't think I can beat that, but I can try.
I think I got it.
Okay, good. I should have written that down.
Okay, it has been moved to approve the material selection and acquisition policy draft 6/11, or June 11th with changes noted at this meeting. Is there any further discussion? Trustee Robinson?
So just to be clear, since I missed the last meeting when this was sent to the attorney, so this follows all the new Idaho laws. I mean, I would assume since you're approving it, it does. I just want to make sure before I actually give my answer.
Think that the concept of obscenity and materials harmful to minors is included in this policy. But even if it wasn't compliant with 710, the library has an avenue to deal with that material through the reconsideration policy and the relocation form. So we still have a suite of policies that would allow us an avenue to do that. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, is there further discussion or? Okay, then we are going to move on to the vote. It has been moved to approve the material selection acquisition policy draft June 11th with changes noted at this meeting. All those in favor, say aye.
Right.
Aye. All right, it is unanimous. The material selection and acquisition policy draft is approved.
But we can change the date, very last line.
Actually, that's automatically done by, I believe, the business manager. Yeah, that's done by staff anyway. So now we are moving on to agenda item number 16, discussion of materials withdrawal and reconsideration policy. We had sent that one to the attorney for legal review as well. So I can find my copy. Oh, actually, I think it must be attached to the other one. Okay, so legal, would you give us a rundown of anything that's problematic?
Thank you. Okay, so I'm on page 2 under request for reconsideration of material. The third paragraph. This references staff evaluating, or the board evaluating whether staff appropriately use the selection policy as a guide. I'm assuming when we use the term selection policy, we're referring to the materials selection and acquisition policy we just passed. So you could consider writing that name precisely in there if you want.
And which line is that down?
Third full paragraph under request for reconsideration of material, about midway through page 2.
Okay, yeah, I have the paragraph. I'm just,
It's the fourth line down.
will evaluate whether staff appropriately use, okay.
What do you want to change?
Change it to the real name of the policy. That's
Selection.
just selection policy.
instead of
Oh.
review process.
Material selection and acquisition policy, I'm assuming.
Instead of just selection policy,
Yes.
material selection and acquisition policy.
Yeah, it is better to be clear. Okay, oh, business manager?
There's another reference to that in the very first sentence,
Same section?
same section,
Okay.
end of the first sentence. A review team of the library staff will be selected to review the item fully using the, we change that one too.
Yeah, because that's material selection policy, so that's where the confusion came. So I guess my proposal is anywhere that we're referring to material selection or selection policy, just refer to the policy by name.
Where was that second point?
Same paragraph for the first line.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm in agreement to that. Emily's nodding,
Yes.
staff is nodding, Robinson's nodding. Thoughts?
I didn't get them all in here. I was still trying to bring it up, but, can we go over it again?
Right here, right here. Okay, so do you agree to the change?
Yeah.
Anywhere where it's found in the document? Okay, so we have a unanimous agreement on that. So anywhere in the document where it says material selection policy or some variation of that policy, we would replace that with material selection and acquisition policy. Just make everything nice and clear and uniform. Okay, was there anything else, attorney?
The next section, request for relocation of material harmful to minors, the second paragraph. This concern revolves around the last sentence conflicting with the 2 or 3 prior sentences. On the one hand, we have, if there's a recommendation to relocate material, the relocation shall be accomplished immediately. Then we have, if a recommendation by staff is not to relocate the material because it's not deemed harmful to minors, it'll be submitted to the board for a review, and they'll give a decision later. And then we have a sentence that says the material shall not be removed from its assigned location. So that sentence needs an exception, something like, unless the material in question has been deemed harmful to minors, it shall not be removed.
Except that was, the end of the sentence was during the review process.
Correct, but see, the staff review it and deem it harmful to minors, and it has to be immediately relocated. But the patron has a book that's relocated, and somehow there's a review to the board. The board takes another look. There's an extended review. So I would just want to make sure that anytime there is a dispute related to whether it is or it isn't, that we give that space to move it as soon as it's deemed that way, regardless of who deems it. So.
But the process.
Hold on.
You know,
Trustee Robinson?
So I recall us moving that sentence. It used to be like more in the middle of that paragraph. We moved it to the end to show that it wasn't going to be taken off the shelf for council during the examination. But I don't think what council's asking to put at the beginning makes a difference. So I'm fine with adding that. I mean, it makes a difference as it clarifies it more, maybe, but I don't think it takes away from the actual meaning of it. So I'm fine with adding that to the sentence.
Trustee Boss?
So I'm still feeling it's not necessary because if the staff decides it shouldn't be moved, the process isn't over. we've defined the process. The process then goes to the board. And the board reviews it. So the whole review process can either be just the staff, or it can be, if they decide to move it, or it can be the staff and the board in a full 60 days. And we just said during that process, I don't,
Trustee Hanley?
I'm just wondering if, again, going to that sentence, if we change it, because what if we say, if the determination was made to relocate the material because it's deemed harmful, then it's to be accomplished immediately? Because their recommendation, I'm taking the word recommendation to mean a person who submitted the form. So if somebody recommends they get a book moved, that doesn't mean we should just move it. But a determination was made by staff to relocate the material, then it should be accomplished immediately. So I'm just wondering if we could change, say, if the recommendation is, say, if the determination was made to relocate, go from there, would that help make it work?
Okay, so that, if the determination was made to relocate,
Yeah.
and that would go where?
Right there, just instead of just saying if the recommendation is, say, if the determination was made,
Oh, okay.
then we should do that immediately. If the staff determines it's off on wire, they should go ahead and relocate it immediately. Then it goes on after that, though. If they didn't decide to relocate it, then it moves on to the board.
Trustee Boss?
whether it's recommendation or determination, I don't really care. It's whatever comes out of the library director. I'm fine with calling it determination, but I still don't understand why we need to add to the last sentence, because the process is still going. How does it make it clear that if the board takes it up, it still isn't moved?
Okay, I understand what trustee Plass is saying, I think, because if you're looking at this from a process flow diagram and the process is followed, there is no possible outcome where a book could be removed if it wasn't recommended for removal by staff, right? Because it has to occur first. But that's not defined in the policy because we use the term review. One, you have staff reviewing the form and the material and then recommending a disposition. And then right after that, we see a recommendation to relocate from staff. That's fine. Then that relocation is accomplished immediately. Okay, that's fine. Staff says it's harmful to minors, move the book to the adult access only. That's a reasonable step. Then if staff says no, and it comes to the board can say it is or it isn't. But when does that review process end? Because if the board says this is harmful to minors, are we moving it immediately or not? And this is saying that material shall not be removed during the review process, but we don't know when the review process ends. And so that's one thing I want to clean up, because I don't know what happens after it comes from staff to the board. We know there's a timeline on staff and it'll be immediately removed. But once staff makes a recommendation and the board gets a hold of it, the review process is up for grabs, I guess, right? And so when does that occur? When does the relocation occur? Does it occur immediately, not immediately? Can we move the book immediately before the deadline? I think to be consistent, relocation is accomplished immediately, but it requires that the material is deemed harmful to minors. And that should be consistent for the staff and the board.
Trustee Hanley?
So we may be adding another sentence that is similar to the one regarding staff and say, if the board determines, and then the book is harmful to minors, whatever's there, relocate the book. I mean, is that what we're looking at doing? But we obviously have a direction. If staff determines it's harmful to minors, if I'm understanding council correctly, we don't say what action is required. It's not documented there. What happens if the board determines it's harmful to minors, if I'm understanding correctly?
Except as necessary for examination during this process, and unless material in question has been deemed harmful to minors, the material in question shall not be removed from its assigned location during the review process. I would be okay with that. And I don't think it's necessarily like a legal constitutional flaw, but it would, this is going to be potentially a highly contested area, and there is a new process, and there's a lot of eyes on this. And so I'd rather not leave a gap because we don't define review process, and we have a lot of different people touching the file.
Okay, so, Attorney Boyles, your suggestion to add the unless the material in question has been deemed harmful to minors, it shall not be removed from its assigned location during the process. Would that be in the parentheses, or that would be after that, they accept as necessary for examination during this process?
Well, there's
I guess I'm just
three
not.
clauses. There's three clauses, and so I would look at it as what reads the best, what makes most sense. So you could leave the parentheses at the end and put the phrase at the beginning, or you could combine the new clause with the parenthetical clause. And so you could say, unless material in question has been deemed harmful to minors and except as necessary for examination, the material in question shall not be removed from its assigned location during the review process. So it requires that it's deemed harmful to minors to be removed. So that way a library patron doesn't sue us for removing a book or, something they should have access to. Then it takes an official act, and then we can review the material and we don't have to purchase a new copy. But we can't take it off the shelf just to take it off the shelf, right?
Right, okay, so this would just be the last sentence. Unless the material in question has been deemed harmful to minors, it shall not be removed from its assigned location during the review process, and then in parentheses, except as necessary for examination during this process. Or would we even need that? Is that
I think that's fine.
okay?
You could leave the parenthetical, or you could place that parenthetical clause as I read it earlier.
Stop.
The way, can I read what I think the attorney said? So he said, unless the material in question has been deemed harmful to minors, except as necessary for examination during this process, the material in question should not be removed from its assigned location during the review process.
Right. But there's an and before except. So unless it's deemed harmful to minors and except as necessary for examination.
I am good with that.
Clean feedback on it?
Sure. Unless material in question has been deemed harmful to minors and except as necessary for examination during this process, the material in question shall not be removed from its assigned location during the review process.
Okay, so assistant director's nodding. Hannah, you said yes. Robinson, yes. I'm a yes. Okay, so
I still don't know if I got it right.
The only other thing in that paragraph is recommend a disposition. Looks like it still has a line through it from a previous edited draft. It's on the second line.
Where?
that is not in our copy.
Okay.
Ours is not marked out. Okay, so we had staff buy-in and majority consent of the board to change that last sentence.
Can I make sure I got it before?
Yes. Okay. So where are you at? Go ahead and read what you have.
Unless the material in question has been deemed harmful to minors, comma, and except as necessary for examination during the process, comma, the material
In question
in question
shall not be removed from its assigned location.
during the review process.
Yep.
And the parentheses part is gone behind it.
Yeah, because we incorporated that earlier in the sentence. Okay, so, majority consent and moving on to the next. That's everything. I don't know, we'll find out in a minute. Attorney Boyles, is there anything else in that policy?
Not on that policy, Chair.
Okay, so then we will look at the forms. Is there anything problematic on the forms?
Which form would you like to?
Well, I think in our table packet, we had the request for reconsideration of materials next.
Okay. I had no issues with this one.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so the next form is the request for relocation of material.
No issues with that one.
Okay. And that is everything. I would entertain a motion to, oops, page. I would entertain a motion to approve the materials withdrawal and reconsideration policy with attendant forms as amended during this meeting. Trustee Claus?
I move that we, oh, so moved.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, it has been moved to approve materials withdrawal and reconsideration policies and attendant forms. Oh, that would be even better. Dated June 11th with attendant forms. Oops, no, I already had that right down. Forms, June 11th, as amended in this meeting. Any further discussion? Okay. Has been moved to approve the materials withdrawal and reconsideration policy and attendant forms dated June 11th as amended in this meeting. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, it is unanimous, and so the motion to approve the materials withdrawal and reconsideration policy and attendant forms dated June 11th as amended in this meeting is carried. So that is, will now be policy. Number 2. Okay, so next we have discuss the public comment policy approval. Again, that was sent to our attorney for legal review. Oh, Trustee Hamlin, you had something to say first?
If I got the right copy here, there were grammatical errors, my opinion. In the first paragraph where it starts comments, about halfway through the paragraph, maybe submit it in writing, should be a comma there. And cross out the word or, and it could be orally, and I thought we had the word presented once, but I don't know, comma, or both. So I would read it as comments may be submitted in writing, comma, orally, comma, or both. Again, I don't remember if the word presented, orally presented was kept or not. I have notes on my old sheet. And then I'll stop at that point because I have an issue with the last sentence in that same paragraph.
Yeah, actually, I believe that we had agreed to change that, so maybe the assistant director.
And I don't know if I had the right copy, like that's where I was confused, because I don't know if the director had a different copy or.
I didn't read what I had. I
Okay.
think
Yeah, we had the boards, it was board apostrophe S work and the public.
apostrophe, yes.
Actually, I
No,
thought we
just
agreed to
took
take the S out.
Yes.
I liked it better with apostrophe S, but then we agreed to just take the S out. And the public experience of the meeting must not be disrupted by objects, behavior, noise, etc. So is that,
Anything,
Well, yeah, sorry.
I'm just gonna say, and of the meeting doesn't add any value to me, but it's all about the meeting, so I don't see any value of that, those 3 words put in there. So the board's work and the public's experience must not be disturbed by objects, behavior, noise, etc. I don't know that I see a lot of value in those extra words. I can live with them, I don't care either way. I'm just saying, I don't see a value in those words.
Okay, well, I didn't want to change it too much and have that change, the legal review. So,
This is better.
why don't we hear from legal?
Okay, I reviewed multiple copies because I wasn't sure which one we were taking a look at, but they're all substantially the same. The public comment, I think, may be addressed, right, not will. And then the issues with the submission of comments is fine. And then the possessiveness of the public experience is however the board wants to communicate that. The thing I want to communicate to this board is that public comment policy is all about disruption. I know that there's been some discussion related to restricting what commenters can say, and almost all of those assertions are either based on a content or a viewpoint that is impermissible for a public board. And so even the concept of personal attacks. Personal attacks typically are pro someone and against someone else. So it inherently is viewpoint based. And unless it causes a disruption, it's highly unlikely that a blanket prohibition of personal attacks would survive constitutional scrutiny. And so I would just encourage this board to make sure that any decision that's made related to the public comment policy is rooted in the concept of disruption, right? And that's typically how it's drafted. And so when I read no personal attacks or disruption from audience members will be tolerated, I'm interpreting that to mean the personal attack is causing a disruption as well, right? Not just a personal attack isn't tolerated. The personal attack must cause disruption. Now, if someone's coming up here and they're reading off your social security number, or they're doing something otherwise that would be illegal or invasion of privacy or defamation, that's fine. I don't interpret that to be within the phrase personal attack, but the gravamen of the public comment policy is disruption, just to be clear. Thank you.
So should we take out personal attacks and just have it read, no disruptions from audience members will be tolerated? Would that be more legally defensible?
Well, it's a guideline, and the top of the policy states that the board's work cannot be disrupted. And so I'm reading all of these guidelines from the perspective of causing a disruption. And anything that causes a disruption, the board can regulate.
Trustee Boss?
Well, I guess I don't understand really the personal attack. Frankly, I wanted that to be not just the public, but the person addressing the board. I don't know why they would be allowed to, I gave the example of how Mr. Hanley, Trustee Hanley combs his hair, but why would they be able to criticize our beliefs or what they think about individual trustees? To me, that I don't know if that's a personal attack, but it has nothing to do with the meeting. I don't understand if it's something we did with the policy, something we did with in the meeting, that's fair game. But I don't understand why they would be allowed to talk about what religion we are, or how many kids we have, or who we married, or whatever. There needs to be something to limit that.
Yeah, go ahead, Trustee Robinson.
Yeah, Trustee Robinson.
First off, this public comment policy is for the audience and the speaker. That's what this is for, just to be clear. And we've talked about this before as a board. The chair has discretion when personal attack becomes too personal, if that makes sense.
Cross the line.
Yeah, people can get up there and actually talk about your religion if they wanted to, because if it's in their opinion, you're making decisions they disagree with because you're bringing your religion into it or something like that. So that can be a personal attack. Some might see that as a personal attack. and others might see it as they're just saying what they believe to be the truth, because it might be the truth. It comes to the chair mostly to decipher when it's a more, if it crosses the line. And I believe that's what it's always been, that we've always done, and I believe that Chair Austin has had to step in once or twice. And that's where I'm on it, because yes, they have a right to personally attack us or make personal attacks on us up to a certain point. If they have grievances, that's, I mean, they're going to say them. But so I would be concerned taking that out. It's interesting because it could be taken either way. It has to be deciphered if the personal attack goes too far. That's how I see it. And I don't know if the attorney wants to say something. Attorney?
Well, again, it's all about disruption. I can't stop a commenter from saying something that I disagree with. I can't stop a commenter from taking publicly available information about my religion and criticizing how I'm regulating the purchasing of books at the library because we're a government entity. But what I can do is I could stop that commenter from obstructing the board business. I can have that commenter trespassed and removed from the property if they are obstructing and disrupting the board business. But that's something the courts can look at and review that a disruption occurred. And that's almost every single case I've read involves some type of disruption. And the courts are really, really strongly wording their caution to public boards to limit speech of the public when it's related to or germane to the board's business in any way and not otherwise protected, like defamation or patient privacy illegal. And it certainly can't be based upon a viewpoint or the content. So I would just caution the board to say that you must find disruption to take an action against a citizen commenter. And I would say that's a good starting place if you want to avoid, like a 1983 lawsuit. If there's no disruption, no visible, palpable, articulable basis to say that disruption occurred, then I would recommend that you not take action. That be the presumption.
Okay, so we could leave it in, but just make sure that the chair just deals with disruptions. Trustee Boss?
I was going to recommend on that sentence in red up there, that we take the S's off like I think we talked about, but just saying public meeting experience instead of public experience of the meeting, just public meeting experience.
That sounds awkward.
Experience of the meeting is awkward.
All right, what's your guys' preference? Trustee Robinson?
Are we going with public or publics?
We had previously agreed to just have it be the public experience at the meeting. Trustee Hannah?
I'm gonna go back and just suggest that maybe the word of the meeting just be stricken out of the sentence. I don't really know that it has a lot of value. The whole thing is about public meetings. I'll have to reread it in context, but the board's work and the public's experience must not be disrupted by objects, behavior, noise, etc.
You good with that?
Yeah, that looks like that.
Okay. All right, so we have unanimous consent to remove of the meeting out of that sentence. So it would be the board '(S) work and the public experience must not be disrupted by objects, behavior, noise, etc. So is that good? Okay, so we have majority consent for that. And Trustee Hannah?
Yeah, going back to what council was saying, about not limiting the commenters, the content of what they're commenting on. Bullet point number 3 says the speaker may only address library-related topics. And if it's a budget meeting, you can only talk about the budget. Is that acceptable? Is that an okay restriction, or can somebody sit there and go out there and take their time and just read a book a couple pages because they feel like it? Because if you're saying we can't limit the content, what they're saying down below regarding personal attacks, but we're limiting their ability to talk about only a certain subject by what's written in bulletproof point number 3.
Several court cases have held that that is a content neutral and reasonable regulation of speech. And so as long as it's not otherwise viewpoint based upon the topic. So if we're talking about budget and they're talking negatively about the trustee related to their decisions on the budget, you can't stop that. But if they get up there and they start talking about some other governmental entity, then that could be a disruption of the board's business, which is related to the budget. So that goes back to the disruption again, right? We're here to do what? What's placed on the agenda. That's what the disruption revolves around.
No change requested.
Sure.
Okay, Helen, so, then we had, let's just reaffirm that we had previously changed this, comments made, in that same first paragraph with the red lettering. Comments may be submitted in writing, comma, orally, comma, or both. So everyone's good with that?
Second comment's not necessary, but it's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm a yes. Hanley's a yes, Robinson's a yes. Okay, so we have majority consent. So then I would entertain a motion to approve the public comment policy at May 6th as amended. Sorry, what?
I had one question back on this other third bullet.
Oh, okay.
Because the legal counsel was indicating that it had to be agenda related. And I know, and I see in other public meetings specifically say you can only address the board about topics that are on the agenda. Should this be honed down instead of library related topics? Should it sit, because you actually said it there, should it be agenda related topics instead of library related?
I think it can be, but I don't know, I personally feel that restricts people too much. Because there might be something that they know is coming up and they want to get the conversation started.
That's what he said. I just, if that's what he meant.
Okay, attorney?
Again, the idea is that there is a disruption that occurs.
Mhm.
And so what you can do legally and what's good business practice can diverge. And so I think there is some support that you could restrict public comment to agenda only items. But there's also case law that shows that that may be too broad of a restriction. And that there's implicit in our Republican form of government of redressing a grievance with the governmental entity. So that way we resolve disputes peacefully. And so my advice would be that the presenter, as long as it's library related and it doesn't cause a disruption, let them talk.
Okay.
Right. And I take a very broad, a very liberal view on what speakers can get away with when they address a government board. Can you narrow it down to agenda item only? Maybe. But that's getting close to the line. And the closer you get to the line, the higher risk litigation. So I wouldn't edge so close to that line.
That isn't what you meant, is what.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Trustee Robinson?
Yeah, I agree. So somebody could be coming into a meeting and talk about what happened in our last meeting. And that wouldn't be on the agenda anymore, and they still want to give their opinion on that. So I definitely think it's fine just having library related.
Okay, so, now I will entertain a motion to approve the public comment policy May 6th draft as amended at this meeting. Or something to that effect.
Quiet. I move that we approve the public comment policy or draft May. I don't know, that's the printed one here, May 6, 2024, as amended at this meeting.
Okay, it has been moved to approve the public comment policy board draft, May 6th, 2024, as amended at this meeting. Did I get it right? Okay, there is no further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, it is unanimous, and the public comment policy board draft May 6th, 2024, as amended at this meeting is now approved. Okay, so the next one, item number 18, discussion of 419 patron email, was informed that we do not have enough information to go on that, so we are going to bypass that if there's no objection and go on
Thank you.
to. It would be better to wait until we had more information. But
Can I just say something?
yeah,
What information are we missing? I got an email from a patron who said that she had a minor who showed her how he got it. And it sounds like it hasn't been investigated. I'd just like to know why it's not being investigated. We have the email saying what happened. What do we need?
Well, until we get further information, it would be better to not discuss it right now. Trustee Robinson?
I just wonder if we actually do know, or I mean, I don't know much about this, but do we actually know it's not being investigated? I don't know.
I don't know either.
So there you go. So I think if, for whatever reason, this needs to be looked at a later date for more information, with more information, I'm fine with that.
What information are we waiting for?
We don't know.
I'd recommend that we perform an analysis on whether this involves potential litigation or personnel matters, and then notice it up accordingly. I certainly don't feel comfortable making a statement on this agenda item right now.
Okay, so without objection, we will move on to item number 19, response to public comment, which is public comment that was made before today, because we don't address that, just so that there's more time and space for any emotions to calm down. Does anyone have any comments on previous? Trustee Fox?
So on the 16th, I guess I was given a book by a speaker. I don't know if all three of us were given, or three of us were given the exact same book, but I never understood what I was supposed to do with it, or if it's the library's. Am I returning it, or what is it?
No, I think it was a gift and we could read it or not read it and then dispose of it as we saw fit. Any other comment? Okay, then we will move on to executive session, item number 20 on the agenda. I would entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061A. Trustee Hanley?
I move that we go to executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061A.
Okay, it has been moved to go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061A. And this is a roll call vote. Trustee Hanley?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Addison's an aye. Boss?
Aye.
Okay, it is unanimous. We are now going into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061A. And I'm
Treasurer's things.
yes, the treasurer may stay. And for everyone else, I'm sorry, this is a board only meeting, and
Thanks for coming.
hope you enjoy the fresh air. Okay, so at 5:12, Addison moved to come out of executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061A. It was a unanimous roll call vote. Okay. So, I should turn that on. All right, so should I proceed? You got it? Okay. So we are moving on to our next item, number 20, agenda item number 21, succession planning.
We move to authorize the chair to proceed as directed in executive session.
Okay, it has been moved to authorize the chair to proceed as directed in executive session. All those in favor?
Fine.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it is unanimous. The motion is carried and the chair is authorized to proceed as directed in executive session. All right, so our next item, number 22, is discussion of parking lot, future consensus agenda topics listed on the agenda. And I had meant that to be an action item. Generally, I think that's a great idea. And since Trustee Robinson suggested that, I've been keeping my own. It's a great idea. I do have kind of a gut feeling that it could be used by some people, that it would be weaponized somehow to bludgeon us. So I'm not in favor of it being on the agenda, but I am keeping one myself. So discussion, Trustee Hanley?
So I just want to make sure for clarification, do we want to create a location on all future agendas called parking lot, and it has a list of all topics to be covered at some future date until they get on the agenda? Is that, just make sure I'm interpreting what we're saying there?
Trustee Robinson, did you have that fleshed out into an idea, or?
Well, it just got clear to me. I thought this was a discussion about a parking lot that needed repair. Honestly. And in this future consensus, like, why is it on there? I'm not sure exactly what the other trustee just was saying, but what I wanted it to show on our agenda, topics that different trustees are interested in having on the agenda that are having to be pushed back because of more important things happening, but just so we can see what they are and we don't lose track of what somebody wants to bring up. We did have it a couple years ago, and I found it helpful because even if it was something that was your own idea, you could forget about it if you didn't see that it was on there, or you could just think that the chair was just like not putting it on for whatever reason. But it being there, you know that the chair sees it, you know that everybody else sees it, and actually that, to me, makes it less likely for somebody to be able to say the chair is purposefully not putting my agenda or my topic on the agenda, because it is on the agenda. It's just not the right time for it. So, I mean, I don't think it would be something that could be weaponized, or I forget the word you used, but I think it would actually be better because it would be there, put on by the chair and the director, obviously, but and it wouldn't be ignored. I mean, it could sit there for a while, but sometimes that has to happen because other things come up. So I would like it. So are you saying that it would be called a parking lot?
I think Trustee Hanley had said it was called a parking lot in the business world or something.
Would it be on, is it on the agenda? Is the parking lot on the agenda, or is it somewhere else?
Trustee Hanley?
No, I threw the term out as you speak, at a number of meetings I've been to in the past, just a parking lot. I'm not necessarily suggesting maybe that the parking lot belongs on the agenda. The agenda could potentially then get very large. I mean, meaning that the amount of text that's on the paper. So I think that should be, I don't care what it's called, a parking lot of somewhere kept so that we know what items people potentially want to get on the agenda eventually and not lose track of them. So I'm indifferent whether we call it a parking lot or something else, and whether we keep it on that parking lot, that list of items or subjects or topics, if we physically keep it on the agenda or some other site, I'm indifferent on that, but I believe that's what Trustee Robinson is looking for.
Okay, before we move on, there's the awning here somewhere. It's cold. If we could have the air conditioning turned off, if anyone knows where she's at.
She left.
Oh, okay. All right, Trustee Bloss?
So I'm a little opposed to putting it on the agenda. And I wouldn't call it parking lot. I don't care for that. I would just say future agenda items. What I don't like is, first in, first out type of thing. If we're working on a list and something further down on the list becomes more urgent, I think the chair should have the option to move the urgent thing up and not just work down a list that's, you know, first in, first out type of thing. But I think maybe you just have a piece of paper here at the meeting that is here available for us. But I just assumed it wasn't all published, but show, we could look at it if you had the list here.
Okay, Trustee Robinson?
I would like it on the agenda, and 100% absolutely, if something an item that I asked to be on the agenda, if it kept getting moved down, it wouldn't be first come, first serve, in my opinion. If it kept getting moved down and it was justified or somewhat justified that it was happening, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I, of course, know that you would have to pick the most important, just like an emergency visit. You're sitting there with a spider bite, somebody comes in with a broken leg, they're going to get in before you. So I understand that it would be, things are going to be shuffled. Even things that aren't even on that list will prioritize over the list at some points. It doesn't sound like it's going to happen, but I would like it to be on the agenda.
Okay, so last comment, Trustee Hanley?
A number of meetings back, the chair did some homework on what properly belongs in minutes of a meeting. And so I am kind of curious whether there's any guidance anywhere that kind of says what should be, what categories should be on an agenda item, a list, not particular content, but maybe there's guidance in parliamentary book, whether it's Roberts or elsewhere, what belongs, what categories of stuff belong on an agenda, because this agenda could potentially get longer and longer, and I don't know that it necessarily, the future topics necessarily belong stored on the agenda itself. Right? I don't think I like that idea as a location. So, in any case, there may be some guidance out there on what should an agenda look like, format-wise and categories. For example, call to order, goes through the numbers. You need to say where the meeting's going to be held, what time, and so forth. Maybe there's something on there that there's some guidance available somewhere. So I suggest we hold off.
Okay, yeah, and I must have forgotten to put action item on that. So if you want it on a future agenda with an action item, then bring that up at our next agenda topic, number 23. All right, so moving on to agenda topic number 23, discussion of future agenda requests. Mr. Robinson.
I don't think it's necessary to add it at this time because we just had a pretty good discussion and I see where everybody's thinking. I disagree with the other trustees. I would like it on there, but I'm not going to ask for it again at this time.
Okay. Any other items or should we? Nope. Trustee Hanley.
Item number 23, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Future item, agenda items. I think we need to elevate the minors card policy because the policy as it stands currently, not going into all the detail of it, because of the HB 710, we're required to safeguard and keep minors from having access to the bad materials. And the system allows minors to obtain materials from libraries outside of the CON. So I see that as another necessary closure to that loop.
Yes, I think that is priority for July. Any other, trustee Robinson?
Yeah, actually, this came up some months ago and I don't know where it is now. Maybe staff does, but the retention policy. I know we're supposed to have that updated by, I believe, the end of this year. So maybe that needs to be on there.
Retention, what?
Is that the wrong? Oh.
What are you talking about?
How long you have to keep,
Records,
yeah, what's that called? What?
like a records.
I thought it was called the retention
Yeah, records.
policy. Yeah, yeah. It was started a bit, it was looked at, but I believe it is supposed to be updated by law, like every few years. Isn't that what, Director Eccles was telling us?
I'm gonna have to go back.
Okay.
Okay. All right. If there are no further suggestions, we'll move on to set special and regular meeting dates. I can call a special meeting, so which doesn't involve us voting on it. So, anyway, I think we've already got a lot of meetings. Hoping no one will suggest anything else. Okay, so if not, then we will move on to magic number. Oh, no. Go ahead.
Do we need to address the July budget planning meeting that's on the 26th? Because one of the trustees said they wouldn't be able to attend. And so like, we need to get that decided so they can, and it needs to be done like preferably that week, the 23rd, 24th, or 25th. Because we have to have a budget to publish.
July 26th?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm out of town that whole week except for the 26th.
Uh,
And then I leave again. No, that's right. Yeah, the 26th is the only day.
Can you call in? I called in last week.
Can you call in? Well, it's,
I'll be traveling, but
no.
I'm going to high school reunion, which only happens once.
What, on the 26th you are?
Yeah, I'll be traveling on the 26th to get there for it that night.
Well, if you do it on another day, I can attempt to call in, but I can't promise anything.
Okay, so maybe Thursday, July 25th,
Open.
or the same time, 2 to 4.
Open at Obi.
Yeah, I'm free to.
Okay.
What's the proposal?
To move it to the day before, July 25th, same time. Yep.
Can we go later?
I could. Is that hard on staff?
The latest we could stay is 5 o'clock, at least for me. I have other commitments.
Okay, so we could do it maybe 3 to 5.
I would recommend 2 to 5, because it's like the last time we can talk about the budget, or it needs to get published, like a really important meeting.
And I will literally be on an airplane then, so I won't be available.
Well, later will you be? Or earlier?
Or a different day.
Well, the rest, I mean. I'll be on airplanes Monday and Thursday, Tuesday and Wednesday. I don't know what I'm doing, but I won't be on an airplane. But I won't be here either.
Available Tuesday and Wednesday.
I'm not available Tuesday, but I'm available Wednesday.
Okay, so it sounds like Wednesday might be our best bet.
I'm free.
Okay, so Wednesday, 2 to 5. Okay,
I have to look for room availability and send out that to everyone with the agenda.
okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, thank you for remembering that. And,
Yeah, thank you.
okay, so our next one is magic number 25, adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
So move that we adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it is unanimous and you're now adjourned.